Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. I'm doing really good. How are you, brother?
Doing well. It's a Tuesday when we're recording. The week is up and going. Monday was a success, kicked some butt, and it's always good when things are working as they're supposed to. So yeah, man, things are going well. How about the asphalt paving world over there in Kentucky? Things flowing well with the company?
Yeah, man. It's that time of year. We're getting into the playoff end of the year push portion of the season. So the phone activity is definitely picking up. The definitely on the maintenance side, the seal coating side for sure. But even the capital paving stuff and people that are trying to get some of their profits spent and reinvested in their paving assets at their facilities, things like that are really starting to pick up. And I actually got some feedback last night at I was at a softball game, and one of the guys on my team, I won't mention their name because he may or may not be a local competitor, but he mentioned that he was searching asphalt paving whatever on Google the other day, and we're popping up there on the first page now. So that's
Absolutely.
we started off this year back in February, March, April, and we were, God, I don't know, we were 35th to 50th or so down on page 3 or 4 or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's just good to see the activity that we're doing not only here but out in the community, and the brand awareness growing. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about this, about reinvesting back into your company in order to do some things like that. Really starting to see the fruits of that come to fruition is really cool. So get a little validity to the things we're trying to accomplish here.
Sure, sure. And for both of us, whether you're just, actually starting the company and it's all of your funds and you're trying to make it, you're trying to prove that your company can survive the dreaded first 2 to 5 years, if you will, and
Yeah.
make it. And as on the marketing side too, it there's not many cases where we're working completely fresh with a company, and just to see the progress and just our system, we get notified every time that a proposal of yours is viewed, a proposal is accepted, and man, it's getting fun. It's really getting
It
fun.
is
And
getting
so
fun.
it's um it's even more motivating to just keep it going and see how much we can get in this year, before that winter season hits, and we're forced to sit back and reflect and do some of this deep thinking on the profit margins and stuff like that. So man, yeah, it's getting exciting on our end, and I hope your all's business out there is doing well too. Today we're going to address profit margins again. We did this as a two-part episode. The first episode we concentrated on more of the operational expenses and finding some places there where you might be able to gain a little bit more finances, and then actually looking at the finances, making sure that you can dive into your numbers. You make that paramount in finding what exactly it is that you're doing with your business. If nothing else, looking at that profit margin and then working from there to get down to the finite numbers, even down to the hour and minute, as far as what it means for your company to be operating efficiently and making somewhat of a profit margin. So go back and check out episode number 1 of that. It's the previous episode. But for today, we thought we'd talk a little bit more about the future, kind of some growth strategies, adapting to change, and just some things you can do for your business to make sure that you're making a good profit. And it's kind of outside of that foundational aspect, whether it be in the field, seeing the numbers go up and down, or on the finance side. So we thought we would kind of start with focusing on the human resources side of things, the employee side of things. We talked about what it means to have people continuously moving in the field on the last episode, Kevin. But I was wondering if you could just talk to a little bit about what it means to invest in skill development and how that all kind of wraps up into like a positive culture, and what it means to find a good employee and nurture that person.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely critical. I mean, we talked about it in part one of this episode. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the folks that are on your ground crews that are out in the field performing and producing the work. I mean, those at the end of the day, I mean, you've obviously got the sales team involved there as well, and it's basically the your consumer or sales, and then your operations and your production team. So the better versed they can be, the better trained they can be, the more skills we can put in their tool belts, no pun intended, that we can give them to be able to deliver at a high level for our consumers. That just bodes well for everybody involved, the consumer and the business as well. So we and look, I mean, training people, investing in skill development, creating a positive work culture. I mean, those things take resources. They take financial resources, and be able to do those at a higher level than kind of just muscling through them. And so whatever gains we're able to make on a profit margin level, ultimately that's just a way we can dip it back into the company and be able to invest in skill development, whether that be taking team members, production team members, sales team members, administrative team members, to conventions, to seminars, to these trade shows, to where they can, sit through educational courses, whatever we can do to get them in front of other training outside of what we're able to do, just hands on in the field on a day to day basis. That's just going to give us another level of service that we can ultimately deliver to our consumers. So it's huge. And by the way, I mean, I've been doing this since 2009. I mean, the times when we've had the best and most positive work cultures is when our employees are seeing, the ownership or the management investing resources and time back into them, and helping them along with their continuing education, with developing a broadened skill set, whatever it may be. So, I mean, it's the employees and the teams, they really feed off that when they know they're being poured into. And it's not something we can do all the time. And again, it depends on how many resources we have available by maximizing profit margin that we're able to kick into that line item on the budget. How much can we set aside and plan for skill development, for employee training, and all those things go into employee retention. What kind of benefits can we offer them? What kind of 401k, health benefits, profit sharing, the drinks we provide, the ice we provide, the uniforms we can provide, the swag. I mean, what you name it, the list goes on and on and on. All these things that add up to creating a pretty cool culture and a great place to work, and those all take resources. So it's a big piece, man.
Absolutely. And obviously, you talked in the last episode about, we discussed focusing on the things that aren't profit margin in order to increase the profit margin. And we're kind of talking about that here, I guess, as far as developing individual talent and culture and things of that aspect. But I was curious if you have someone that's maybe on the field crew where obviously it's you want to do more than just find a butt to put in the seat. But
Right.
when thinking about profit margin, they don't necessarily, you just have to get them functioning in their role well and, enjoying their job and feeling appreciated and all the little things like that. But when it comes to leadership, someone that may need a little bit more insight on your business, someone that may need to like a salesperson or someone on the operations side to help run your business. Is there anything that you look for profit margin wise when you're either looking to find someone like this or you're looking to educate someone like this? I mean, do you let the curtain back for all of your numbers and explain all these profit margins to your upper level management?
Yeah, I mean, I've been of the philosophy and mindset for a long time now, probably a decade or so at least. That we're very transparent with the profit margins, because it's one thing for an owner or the president, or upper management to be barking orders and making demands and demanding more, expecting more, and they don't really have a clear picture of why you're making these demands, or why you're
Hmm.
coming up with these high ceiling expectations, when they don't, because perception wise, I think most humans are just going to default that, well, that's just coming from a place of greed, or corporate greed, or management greed, or the owner of the company's greed, when in fact no, these are the reasons we need to be more profitable. These are the reasons we need to be more productive. These are the reasons that our quality has to be at a certain level. These are the reasons why our callbacks have to be at this percent or less on an annual basis. So we're not pouring resources into going back and reworking things that we've already done once. And when you can start painting the picture and the reasons why things have to look a certain way, then it becomes a little there. You get a little more buy-in from the team, I think. I mean, so are we entirely transparent with the budget and the finances all the way down, to the shovel guy? Probably not, but we certainly are to that person's foreman or management or sales team, those that are really driving the production and the sales on a daily basis, so they can understand where we need to be, how we need to be, how we need to do it, what the time frames look like, what the production needs to look like, what the quality needs to look like. And these are the reasons why. It's not so we can stuff our pockets, it's so we can reinvest in skill development, so we can reinvest in leadership and management training, so we can develop effective leaders, and we can start building high performing teams. I mean, that's really what it's about. So yeah, we're transparent about that. We're open and honest about that. If I've got anything to hide as the owner of the business, then I don't think there's really any way I'm going to create a culture that's very long lasting at all. So uh, cards are on the table, and I pretty much operate it as an open book. I mean, if people want to get and give respect and earn respect and have it given back to them, I mean, it's the way it's got to be. It comes down to good communication. It comes down to transparent communication.
And it's interesting to me how this is something that I've never thought about, and we've never discussed on an episode, and I'm already excited to dive in here and maybe even make a full episode, but about the sales team and what it means to have a good salesperson and keeping that salesperson, but to
Man.
focus on the profit margin side. What does a good salesperson mean to your profit margin?
Oh, it's huge. And sales is certainly one piece of it, because we want someone that can exude to the consumer exactly who we are as a company, what the process is going to look like, what our deliverables are, and what those are going to look like, and the kind of experience they can expect from our organization. But that, beyond sales, that person over time, and this is one that uh, I've had a lot of different salespeople here and there in my career, and they really become great salespeople when they also become very good students of exactly what we do. And they get that by spending time out in the field with our crews, on job sites, learning our processes, observing our processes. Had a lot of sales guys that even throw boots on and get in there in the trenches with the folks as they start learning, what it is that we do. I didn't really start understanding this business until I put myself out in the field. I tried for a year or two to just kind of operate and manage the business as a business owner, but until I really got my boots on the ground and started understanding what it is that we do, there was no way I could be a good estimator. And that's the other side of sales. Like, you've got to understand how to estimate uh, time frames, materials, production equipment needed, production manpower needed, trucking needed. I mean, list goes on and on and on. Is it a big open square parking lot? Is it cut up with a bunch of islands in the middle of it? Is there narrow access to a portion of the road that we're going to be paving? Are there overhanging trees? I mean, all of these things you've got to start looking for and being able to put those denominators into an estimate, into a proposal that you're ultimately trying to sell to our consumer. You got to kind of cover your butt on all that stuff and really understand the scope of what you're estimating and how to look at it from a field production standpoint instead of just from a sales. It's this many square feet. It's going to take this much material, and should take this much time. A lot of folks will just, and I hear it still even to this day, people will say, do you have a per square foot price? It's like, roughly, but no, because every job's different. Every job's different. Every job sites different every so it's really wrapping your arms around all that stuff and putting it into a package that not only the consumer can understand, but then also so that the field crew has good information and notes and directives when they go out to perform a job. So say you got sales and estimating, and you got to bring those two together to have someone that's really good out there on the sales team for you.
Yeah, so I heard that obviously they have to have a good salesperson that could help profit margin needs to have a willingness to learn. They need to
Yeah,
be somewhat of a team player, at least to where they can get in there to at least educate themselves through the team.
absolutely.
And then I guess a little bit of self-reflective as well, and the ability to disseminate some information and communicate well. Uh, so is
100%.
so is there anything else that when you think of some of the best salespeople that you've come across as far as encompassing everything, but ultimately leading back to that profit margin, is there any characteristics that they maybe all shared in common?
Uh, well, look, it's sales. It's in the world of sales. Um, I always defer back to this first and foremost in a salesperson. You've got to have someone that's hungry and motivated by money.
Hmm.
Like they've got to be motivated by financial reward. And my best salespeople have always had that. And when they've got that mentality, that usually means they've got that Mamba mentality. They're tenacious, they're ferocious, they're willing to do anything. During the season, they're probably working from 6 a.m. till, sometimes 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, pumping out bids, working leads, been on the job site. Like, I mean, they've got to have a tenacity about them, just a willingness to do whatever it takes, and they've got just a high motor for extensive periods of hard work and follow up and follow through, and that's really what it comes down to, because we can teach the rest. So it's finding that person that's got that kind of work ethic, because we can teach the rest of it. We can back into the rest of it, but that's what it takes, man. And that's why I've always been of the mentality. A lot of sales folks out there are on a salary with maybe a little bit of a bonus structure involved, or some kind of uh, promise of a bonus at the end of the season if we do X, Y, and Z. But I've always been, probably always will be, commission only based sales, because I want people, because they're going to lose money if they don't put together a good estimate and a good scope and a good plan of attack for a job. They're going to make more money if they do. They're going to make more money if they're able to possibly upsell some items or get a great relationship going with the customer that results in repeat business and repeat business and repeat business. And by the way, when you are in repeat business like that, your value should go up a little bit, because you've become so constant for that consumer that they don't have to shop it out and get 3 or 5 bids anymore. They don't have to put someone out there on their team to watch you install the work anymore, or do the job, perform the task in hand. So all that comes with a higher value. So the people that can create that value and drive that kind of revenue and that kind of consistency over a long period of time, man, they're going to win, and we want to pay them accordingly. We want their earnings to be directly related to how well they're performing. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that obviously can be very scary for a certain type of person, but I think if you have
hundred
someone who's
percent.
willing to sit there and know their own value and have that hunger that you speak about, and also be able to sit down and look at what the opportunity is in front of them, and if they understand the industry and their product, and I think it's worked out very well for a lot of the salespeople that you have had in the past. I wanted to switch gears a little bit.
Let me just say this.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, salespeople that are fearful of being in control of their own destiny are probably not the right kind of salespeople for your organization.
sure,
If you want them to have massive growth in their sales year in and year out, like
sure,
we
sure.
don't want to see a 20% growth in your sales numbers. We want to see a 75% or 100% growth in your sales number. We're not getting out of bed for second place. We're not getting out of bed for mediocrity. So if you want to push the needle, let's push the needle together.
Absolutely. And it's really neat to see that salesperson, especially when they have a team behind them that can actually get the work done that they're promising. That's
That's the other side of that, man. You
uh,
got to be able to deliver on the promises. They're out there making big promises about you and your company. You better make sure you've got the manpower and the equipment and the logistics and all, the production side to back that up. Because that's the other side of that. You bring in a stone cold killer salesperson and they're pushing that needle. Well, they're going to get frustrated if you can't keep up with that needle. So
that's
it's
right.
it's
No
a
one
give
gets
and
paid till
take.
that check gets delivered.
That's right. And that's why that reinvestment piece is so important because the company and the production team will not keep up with a high performing salesperson if you're sucking the profits out of it. So that's why
That's
this all works together.
absolutely.
Synchronicity.
That's right. Just keep it all going, flowing, circle,
Yeah.
Uh, if you have any questions about the sales process in particular, I imagine we're going to dive back into that in an episode coming up. But please feel free to reach out to Kevin or I, and we'll be happy to answer. Just another quick reminder: if you're enjoying the insights from our show, please like or subscribe on YouTube or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. It's not just a click for us; it lets these platforms know that this content is valuable. And thank you for your support. The caffeine is kicking here, Kevin.
Yeah.
My brain is working faster than my mouth.
Man.
Um,
Hey, thank you, by the way, for the support to the 46,000 plus people that saw our latest LinkedIn post and got involved with that one. I think we had several thousand minutes of viewing on that one and just a big response. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool to see. I mean, that's kind of validating again what we're doing here and spreading the good word and reaching people and getting the brand out and on and on and on down the list. So
sure.
appreciate that big time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a growth in progress. It's also picking up on YouTube. The YouTube Shorts is picking up. If Instagram will let me log back in, we'll keep working on
Gotta
Instagram.
love the meta.
Oh man, it's talk about a quality that helps with any job, but patience. My goodness, man, as this technology
Yeah,
increases, the patience you need to work with it is still every bit as needed.
yeah,
Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some data-driven decision making, and I know we have a different topic there talking about adjusting to change, but I wanted to get to this data piece again first.
yeah,
And the reason I wanted to get to that was just important. It's as important as the finances. It almost always includes the finances and profit margin when you talk about something like that. You mentioned that you've been in the industry a long time, and a lot of this kind of estimating or profit margin analysis kind of comes second nature. You know when material prices might be high, you know what happens in certain parts of the year. But I was just curious for someone that may be either starting out as a new company or just really starting to understand the importance of data. What type of either systems of checks? How often do you check in? Do you have a plan for understanding like when a red flag goes off with costs in your data? I, I guess what I'm getting at is you can refer back to spreadsheets of, how much material has cost, how much you're quoting on proposals and things like that. What are some of the advice or the techniques that you would have for anyone that's just getting started in collecting data to try to understand their company better and make a better profit margin?
man. I check in daily. And if we do 5 jobs on a given day, I check in 5 times a day, and whether that be at the end of the day or very first thing the next morning. I want to know exactly how we're doing on a daily basis so I can catch trends in the data and pinpoint those down to what's exactly happening out in the field. Because if I don't know my data, if I'm not reviewing my data on a daily basis, we could go on a 2 or 3 4 week losing streak and me not even have a clue if I'm not checking in with my data. I could just assume that, well, the work's getting done and the checks are getting deposited in the bank, so things must be going okay. Well, could they have been going 2 or 3 4 hours better all throughout that 2 3 4 week process and me not even know about it? Absolutely. So I need to catch that on day 1 or 2 instead of on day 28 and be like, man, we just had an entire month where we were not profitable at all. So uh, I check in daily. I check in on every job we do every single day because that's how important the data is to me. Because I've done it the other way where I haven't checked in. I check in maybe once a quarter, or even even my first year or two would just check in at the end of the year and be like, man, we did $2 million and the money's all where's the money? Where is the money? And a big piece of that, you've got your production overhead, and you've got your hard cost on your day in and day out. Your material, your labor, your trucking, your equipment, your payroll overhead, your payroll benefits. You got those things that you can account for every day that are pretty black and white, because it's either materials, things, equipment, or manpower that you've used on that given day, and you should be able to strap a pretty definitive dollar amount to that for each job, or at least for each day. The other side of this is understanding your soft costs, understanding your fixed overhead cost, all the other costs that are included with running the business. Whether that be your rent, or your officers' salaries, or your officers' vehicles, or your marketing, any your telephones, your internet. I mean, your cell phones, like your insurance, what you got to pay for legal, what you got to pay for accounting. I mean, I got 20, 25, 30 other items on an annual, basis that are in the budget that have to be accounted for and paid for each and every year. And you've got to figure out how, what's that dollar amount for that, how many man hours we're going to work per season, and figure out exactly what is the rate per man hour for your cell phone payments for the year. And you've got to start attaching that to jobs, and come up with a general fixed overhead amount that you got to be charging to each and every job, above and beyond material, labor, equipment, trucking. And then you got to add a profit margin on top of all that. So that's where a lot of people miss. They forget to account for that overhead piece, and then all the profit they're making on these jobs, or the profit they think they're making on their job, is really just going to pay for the overhead. And they get to the end of the year and there's literally zero money left over, because all they've done is paid for their material, their labor, their equipment, their trucking, and their overhead, and there's no money left. So it's understanding your production costs, and it's understanding your overhead costs, marrying those two together in a system where you can be producing rates on all that stuff and collecting the data on that on a job by job basis, and then making sure that you're making a profit above and beyond that you can actually use to reinvest in your company, and pay for training, and pay for whatever the other things, better equipment, better technology, on and on down the list, things that you can be reinvesting back into the company. If you're not collecting that on top of just your production overhead and your operating overhead, then there's no money to do anything like that. So that's critical.
It sounds like most of the goal setting comes from internal purposes within the company. I was curious if there's anything you benchmark against other companies in the industry. Obviously, the goal here is to hit a certain number per week so that you can hit a certain amount of revenue for the year. But once you get into the week, the work is the work that's in front of you. You can't, all of a sudden pave more work while you're there during the week. So I was wondering if there's any kind of benchmarks you have, during the week. Obviously, you check in every day on the finances, but whether it be, you know, we need to get X amount down in a certain amount of hours, or if you see anyone else doing it a certain way online and you feel like there's there's something to keep up with, or if you have other business owners that you talk to and you're like, okay, well, that's my goal. Is there anything that you benchmark, against someone else, or is it pretty much all internal goals?
Man, it's I try to stay in my own lane, and I understand and know my own business. And if we've got let's just say we've got a goal of 2 million. Well, I know if we've got 40 weeks to work, we've got to do $50,000 worth of revenue at a certain kind of profit margin to hit our income, our revenue goal, cover our production overhead, cover our operating overhead, and then have this kind of profit margin, net profit left at the end of the season. So I know that. The only reason I know that is through my data. Now, where I will benchmark myself against the competition or someone else or my peer group is finding better ways, um, to maximize efficiencies. Usually, is it investing in better equipment, or is it? I've done this. I can't even probably count at this point in my career how many times I've either had contractors across the country come spend time with us, or myself have gone and spend time with other contractors across the country, just observing and learning how they do things and seeing if they do something, even with the same equipment and manpower, maybe just more efficiently than I do it, or something they can, just picking up whatever you can here and there to maximize efficiencies and actually, work smarter, not harder. Not just for profit margin, but for your people too. Like this is backbreaking work, especially if you don't let the equipment do what it's supposed to be doing out there for you. So the more we can learn and the better we can get at executing and finding smarter ways to do things, um, we're gonna capitalize on that, because those are ways right there that you can really grab some margin. And really, it really helps with the culture too, because whether it be investing in a new piece of equipment that the guys get to use, are like, man, this made our jobs exponentially easier. I mean, the one I go to all the time, probably my biggest return on investment piece of equipment, and it's not a big fancy new dump truck or a paver or skid steer or trailer, something that you might imagine when I say it's the biggest return on investment I've ever gained in this business over my career. It was the ride-on blowers for prepping parking lots, for cleaning parking lots, mainly for seal coating, but we used them on the paving side all the time too. I mean, those were $10,000-$12,000 blowers, which can look like a huge investment, but when I know I can go from cleaning one parking lot a weekend to cleaning 4 to 8 parking lots a weekend, and what that can do for my production crews, if they've got that, can get that amount of work prepped out ahead of them, it's massive. Because especially on that seal coating side, I mean, things like that. I mean, cleaning and prep work is typically 60 or 70% of what it takes to get a good seal coating project, at least a commercial one, on the ground. So if I can eliminate 70% of that time, and now I've just got the 30% time of coming behind and sealing that part, crack sealing and sealing that parking lot to do, man. I mean, those things paid for themselves in the first weekend I owned them. I mean, literally. So yeah, was it a big investment? Sure, but I understood what the return on that was going to look like. And by the way, my guys were like, "Holy shit, we've gone from a 3 or 4 man, uh, rugged, dog tired, cleaning crew that's got to go out and get all this stuff ready." That's really the back-breaking portion of that side of the business, and we've eliminated that too with this piece of equipment. They're excited to go seal coat. They don't want to go clean. They don't want to go run wire brushes. They don't want to push walk behind blowers, you know. And now
Absolutely,
one
yeah.
one man can do the work of 3 or 4 and do it 10 times faster. Holy shit, that's a big win.
And probably volunteer to do it because that thing is
Yeah, I think
fast.
it's a lot of
It's
fun.
kind of fun.
Yeah,
And you ask them to if they wouldn't mind picking up, the blower to go do a parking lot. I'm sure they would say yes, but not be thrilled about it. And you ask who wants to go ride the machine.
yeah. Who
They're
wants to
willing
go
to give
ride
up their
Wendy?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Who wants to give up their Sunday and to make some money and ride that thing? Heck yeah, let's go prep some lots.
yeah.
Um, so
So
yeah,
the
that's
industry collaboration is huge, man. And I'll tell you, if you don't have that in your life or in your circle, or if you haven't, made the connections, just start reaching out to some folks, whether it be us or someone like us on social media, or just start asking questions. Somebody's going to respond, and somebody's going to say, "Hey, when you get a little downtime, come spend a week with us and we'll
yep,
just show you what we do." And maybe you'll gain something from it, maybe you won't, but you're not going to learn nothing venture, nothing gain. So, you know,
sure.
there's
Yeah,
plenty of
and
people willing to help out there.
sure. And with social media, you're going to chances are understand a little bit about the person you're reaching out to, and
That's right.
you'll know if they're your type of person anyways. But go ahead and shoot messages to 3 to 5 people. Some people might be super busy, some people just might not care, but put yourself out there. It's definitely worth it. And there are a lot of people out there who love what they do and will be happy to share information, especially with someone who's genuinely interested. So yeah, reach out to
Yeah.
someone.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, me
It's
too,
one of
man.
my favorite things to do in this industry, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it now for 30 something episodes, and we talked about it last week. Some episodes it's like how can we do a full episode about seal coating, or something like that when we've already
Mhm.
kind of touched on it, and we just get rolling, man. And it's just you get the vibe that you're truly making a difference. And when it comes back to providing for your family, making better lives for people, everything we talk about here, it's
That's it.
it's awesome. So
That's it.
now we get to talk about something that's really fun for me, which is the profit margin involved in the marketing aspect of things and the customer relation aspect of things. And again, I wanted to bring this first piece up because we are talking about profit margin. You are starting a new company, and you decided to make marketing a priority. You obviously have experience with me and with marketing for another company in the past, really getting that dialed in with the asphalt paving side of things. But when you talk about profit margin, especially starting a new company, why did you decide to make marketing a priority?
Well, I mean, first, I mean, the easy answer is we had to become known to our market. And we had to let people know we were in business or back in business. Um, and so I knew, there's only so much I can do um, through my own personal connections. And by the way, I've, in selling out of my prior business, I've also got somewhat of a non-compete on that level to where I'm not, technically supposed to be reaching out to any of my prior customers, and I haven't, by the way. So if they find me and my brand new phone number and my brand new company, that's fair game. But I haven't reached out to one single uh, customer of mine, and there's probably a list of, I don't know, 5 to 10,000 of them that over the course of a 15-year career there, that I could have made a phone call to. So I knew that if we wanted to get the brand out there, if we wanted to let people know that Pave It Forward was in business, that Kevin Gray was back in business. I mean, I'm not saying that egotistically, but um, people don't really know what I'm doing because I don't really have uh, the freedom to go out there and tell a bunch of people what I'm doing. So it was like, let's get on this. And even if that weren't the case, if people don't know you exist, if people don't know that you're in business, then you might as well not be in business. I mean, you said it as we opened this show. I mean, most entrepreneurs, most new businesses don't make it to year 3. And I think the stats are like less than 5% or something. If we can't expedite this train, that people know that we're in business, who we are, what we do, what we stand for, what our deliverables are, uh, then it's going to be, talk about pushing the rock up the mountain. It's going to be like pushing 2 rocks up the mountain. So that's and you can elaborate on this one a little bit as well, man. I mean, what um, I
Yeah,
just, and look, luckily I've got 15 some odd years of experience doing this, that I knew just by the data that I've collected over my career how important this marketing arm is. A lot of folks have no way of understanding or recognizing that when they're just starting off. So
sure.
it was an easy one for me. It may not be an easy one for someone else to say, I'm going to drop X amount of dollars on my marketing budget, because I know if we do it correctly, if I've aligned with the right person and the right marketing agency with the right tactics that align with my vision, morals, values, etc., we should see this kind of return on that investment. You know,
Sure, and I think the a lot of the times the questions that I get, and the thing that a lot of business owners try is just do advertising themselves or just hire for advertising first. You've always been one to want a strong brand image. You know, you want bold brands with, you know, maybe three colors max, two colors max. You want something that, and I'm talking about you personally, something that stands out and something that means something to you. You talked a little bit about, you know, having a marketing person that understands your vision and stuff like that, but you know, that's one of the main differences or, one of the big differences between marketing versus just paying money to have someone advertise. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what is it about the brand that does something for you personally, when it represents your company?
Man, I don't, the brand is everything. Brand is life. The blue and white, the logo, the name, pave it forward, what we stand for, what our mission state, it encapsulates everything that we are. And our goal is to be able to disseminate that brand and that image, that likeness, the values to the consumers, to the community, to our market. Um, that's very hard to do if you don't have all of those pieces working for it. And some of the time, or most of the times, it'll start with just the logo and a mission statement.
Mhm.
Just starting right there at two of the core, the fundamental uh, things that encapsulate marketing, and then building it out from there. Uh, and then the biggest part, or one of the biggest parts, is just being consistent to that brand, to that logo, to that mission, and everything that you do, and the way that you portray yourself to the community, the way that you uh, handle your sales transactions, the way you show up and perform on a job site, the way your equipment and trucks and vehicles look like when they're driving down the road, in and out of town. Like, I mean, it's on and on and on. It's there's so much more to it than just running some ads on Google and saying, hey, this is our website, we do asphalt, give us a call, we think you'll like us. I mean, and and that can work. I think that's a very, I think that's a grind. I think that's a very hard way to do it. And I think that's why most businesses fail within 3 to 5 years, because there's just no substance behind their brand or their identity or who they are.
Sure,
And I,
sure.
I just, I feel like this expedites that process.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I if you want to check out more on marketing, check out mirrormarketing.com and or mirrormvp.com and because this is the stuff that I dig into and love and it's the things that I've been learning over the past 10 years in my efforts to go from a creative realm to a data-based marketing company. And I do believe that the data and creativity are both equally as important. It's the two factions of my company besides the operational side of things that we lean equally on. But I think the thing when you're advertising and you just spend money on advertising, you once that is spent, it's gone. You don't have a brand, a website, any other channels to continue, a messaging to continue bringing things in. So advertising needs to be set on a base of marketing. And the way that we approach marketing is we again establish that brand first. We need to know who you are as a company and what you stand for and what those ideal products are and what you want to feel and exude to your community. And then we build assets, which are, you know, things like slide decks or email follow-ups or social media posts or YouTube videos that you can use in your system to reference people to. Um, and then we have the analytics side. You know, we want to collect that data to constantly improve and to be able to optimize, and which optimizes that last step. It needs to be a circle where you're finding the right channels where your ideal clients are. You know, that's what marketing is. You have a product, and then you have the people that are wanting to buy your product. And marketing is everything in between to make sure that you're getting the right person, first of all, and that those people know who you are and that they can be brought into your company and know where you are. You know how to find them. And they know how to find you. So it's really exploring all of those channels and seeing the data get better through everything that you're doing. And you know, the last part of this is customer retention. I used to think that marketing was a thing that, helped advertising or you did to get leads. And that's the way a lot of companies will treat it. They treat marketing as we'll get you X number of leads, and that's where we draw the line. Or they say, we're going to build you an optimized website, and then they'll show you a bunch of words that you don't understand, and that's where they draw the line. Marketing is an all-encompassing thing that lives within your company, and whether you have someone representing it or not in your company, you're doing it. Because the channels that you are on are going to see the way you act and feel. So marketing is really optimizing all of that, and that goes beyond just getting leads. It goes through that customer service process because even as we were talking about with the salesperson earlier, no one gets paid until, that final check comes in. So this needs to be a seamless process. And oh, by the way, one of those channels to get customers, the most popular channel is word of mouth and referral. So you need to make sure that they have a way to at least leave a review or do something so we can really get this thing cyclical and this ball really rolling with some momentum. But with that customer retention piece, I know a lot of people have, came to us before and said, we've never needed marketing or advertising. And man, that is fantastic. Like it can work. Word of mouth is going to be your your best friend, and marketing should help that piece. But when you talk about really exploring all your channels and potentially maximizing profit, unless you're at a point where you don't want to grow at all and you don't need to last more than another 3 to 5 years into the future, I think marketing is a very smart idea because things do happen like 2020. You do have things that change, but you also have to have that financial bank built up, and for emergencies and things like that. So it's really a growth mindset type activity. And if anybody wants to talk more, you just let me know, because that is what we are all about. um, so any thoughts on that, Kevin, before we kind of wrap up that marketing piece there?
No, and I love the way you said all that, and it made me think. Advertising. Um, it advertising casts such a large net that it becomes. I couldn't imagine if I were just advertising right now. My phone and inbox would be flooded with leads, which is not terrible, but it'd be the time to go be reactive to. When we are marketing, we're in a much more proactive, strategic form of fishing, if you will. I don't know. I could, if I pulled my customer database software up right now, I could tell you how many leads we've had so far this year. Uh, there's not been many that I haven't been interested in going and taking a look at. Like we're getting good leads, we're getting solid leads, we're getting the kind of jobs we want instead of just advertising and getting leads in from all areas of town, all different counties, all different scopes and sizes of work that we may or may not be interested in. So we've really taking this marketing channel. um, it's just a lot more strategic. I don't know how to put it other than that we're just and it's a process. It's not like we were dialed in out of the gate. I mean,
Sure.
we've been tweaking on this thing for 5, 6, 7 months now, and that's part of the process. With advertising, you don't really get. You're just like you said, you're just spending money, and when it's spent, it's gone. And when you're marketing, you're spending money, and you're working with someone that's helping you reach your goals and get. They know your budgets, they know your financial goals, they know your revenue goals, they know your margin. Like you've got that kind of transparent relationship where they understand your business, where it is today and where it's trying to going, and you work side by side in tandem reaching those goals. So
Yeah.
big difference in advertising and in marketing and aligning with someone or an agency that's actually delivering on the goals that you're setting out.
Yeah, it
Because I
is
don't
exciting
I
stuff.
don't I don't want 100 leads that 97 of them aren't good leads. That's
Sure.
just
Sure,
it's
and that
not
was part of
it's
my
not
growing pains as well. Even when working with you, there's certain you have an ideal client, and they want a certain level of service. They have a certain amount of land that even makes it worth your company transporting all the equipment out there to do the job. And so, really diving in, figuring out where the different demographics of the different counties, of the different
That's right.
areas, and then also we do advertise, of course. You can use that advertising data to influence your marketing and get better at things. So, it can be a compounding effect, and especially once you get people in, if you can make them happy and get those referrals going by mouth, hopefully within a few years you're just rolling, and it's nothing but opportunities.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so,
Well, it just this avenue, this marketing, why I know it's that word of mouth is and probably always will be your greatest referral source. But
mhm,
I can't, I can't get enough work on the ground fast enough to get that word of mouth going at a speed quick enough to grow my business or to even sustain my business if
sure,
that's all I'm relying on out of the gate. Like
sure,
we needed another nudge, we needed a push, we need a marketing arm,
sure.
and
And oh,
and
by
we
the
always
way,
will.
sure. And oh, by the way, once those leads are going in and you have some history and some data built up with search engines and things like that to where you are getting those leads. Well, now it's time to work on your closing percentage. Let's see what we can create
Right.
with follow-up emails to make sure, with check-ins, with automations, to make sure that customer is wowed and
Yeah.
feeling something that they
Customer
don't get from
experience.
an asphalt paving company,
That's it.
Uh,
I don't know how many already this year. I don't know how many of our customers there have been that haven't said we really just didn't expect this from an asphalt paving company. Just where we've done it before, and we've got some years figuring out what that needs to look like for our consumers to make us look different. But we had to start. So I mean, if you think, oh, we don't know what that looks like, or we don't know how to get there, you just got to start doing it. And the thing, and you got to get plugged into some networks, and you got to get plugged in to some other peers within the industry, and they can show you what they're doing. There's ways to expedite the process in today's world. I'll tell you that. I had a guy. I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but I just want to share this too. Like I had a guy I was on the phone with yesterday that stopped me in a neighborhood. We were seal coating a driveway, and he saw our yard sign, he saw my truck, and then I gave him a card, and then he called me yesterday, and I don't know this guy, I don't know how he made the state. He said, I've written a bunch of mission statements in my life. Maybe he has, maybe he has. I don't know. I just thought it was, if he brought it up, he probably has. I don't know. But he's like, I read the mission statement on the back of your card, and that may be the best mission statement I've ever read. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know how valid this compliment is, but I
sure,
thought that was pretty cool, man. That, all the things, and we're talking about marketing. So we're talking about the yard sign. We're talking about the wrap on the car. We're talking about our crew shirts we're out there wearing. We're talking about the hats we're out there wearing while we're doing the job. And it was enough to get this guy to stop his car and say, hey, do you have a card? And then for him to go one step further and say, well, by the way, your mission statement's really cool. So if I'm just advertising, he saw within that one transaction or what one occurrence I had with this gentleman, saw 6 or 7 pieces of our marketing, you know, uh, aspects that have all come together to have now. I'd say there's a 95% chance that if he does any paving work, it's going to be us who does it.
sure,
And
yeah, and
I've talked to him for 3 minutes.
yeah, and
It's all
then
the other things.
And then I keep going with that. If he were to go to the website and the brand didn't match, he would be completely thrown
Yeah.
off, and the whole thing
Yes,
may be
exactly.
gone. So it's that kind of stuff that literally makes my hair stand up
Yeah.
because
And when I send him a proposal, like
yeah,
it's the brand is going to match, and my picture is going to be on there, and our core values are, it's all going to link. It's all just an ecosystem, if you will, of this brand and all the tentacles of it. That really make the consumer have faith in you and your product.
sure, and all the time you're creating a culture, and it
Yeah.
just it's that is one of the main reasons why I just love business, and the fact that I get to try to help business owners connect with their ideal customer I mean, it's such a victory for, the business owner and I, but to know that that customer is also getting a quality product, I just don't know that there's a better activity or emotion tied to a purpose in life for me. You know what I mean? As just the opportunity to run your own business and make all that happen, especially through partnerships, it's awesome, man. So,
It's
yeah,
pretty
thanks. Having a good time. Uh, but but I did want to get to something else real quick before we wrap up the episode, and it's actually quite big, and that is perhaps expanding your services. To specifically asphalt, maybe seal coating, or you're maybe starting a concrete division or something like that. If you feel like you're running a pretty good operation on the asphalt side, how to look at expanding services from a profit margin standpoint. What are some of the things that may go through your head, when you're assessing potentially a new branch of your company, or in your history, what are some of the things maybe, Kevin, that you had thought about or do think about before potentially adding another stream of revenue?
It's pretty coincidental that I'm wearing a concrete producer's hat today during this
Yeah.
episode. This is actually my sponsor's company that he owns out of Frankfort, Kentucky, Herod Concrete. It's they've been around a long time. Again, they understand brand, they understand value, they understand doing the right thing by their consumer first and foremost, before anything else, before any profit margin. It's take care of the customer first, do the next right thing, do the right thing the first time, and we get into that's kind of a segue into this diversification and growth. It's over a long period of time, you in dealing with the consumer, uh, you do start to pick up or hear or have conversations with them about, what other product lines may make sense. Do you do concrete? And a big one, in the asphalt industry is funny enough. It's like, do you also do concrete? We need our driveway paved, but coincidentally, we also need our sidewalk done, or we want to pour a patio, or we want to pour a concrete apron at the entrance to the apron
Ramps.
at the entrance to the driveway, whatever. And when we're on commercial, it's curbing, storm drains, sidewalks, curb and gutter, um, detection plates and pads for crosswalks. I mean, on and on and on. So concrete makes a lot of sense for us, and that's something that we do offer as a service line item here at Pave It Forward Asphalt. Um, we've got great partnerships in that arena. We've got great relationships with material suppliers. So it's again, it's really just listening to your consumers' feedbacks and requests, and if something makes sense or gets brought up enough times, and we have similar, production equipment and or the skill level within our manpower to be able to deliver some of those items, then yeah, that's absolutely something we would consider diversifying into, growing into, becoming. I mean, there's company, you look at some of these national paving contractors that don't self-perform much work. They're more of brokers and management companies, but they, a lot of them are getting in, they do asphalt, they do pavement, they do pavement maintenance, striping. A lot of them are getting into entire facility solutions now with the roofs or the windows, or the landscaping, snow removal. I mean,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of things on these outdoor properties that we could get in the business of. It's really just figuring out what makes sense for us. Is there enough of a demand for it? And it's hard to be an a la carte kind of business. It's not like I want to be in the paving business but also do landscaping and mow yards and do mulch on the, it's got to kind of make sense. um, Concrete makes sense. It's similar equipment, it's similar manpower, it's similar product even, and a lot of those asphalt and concrete materials go hand in hand on a lot, especially on the commercial side. So that's something that we do offer, but we've always got our ears open. I mean, my partner in this new paving venture also owns a tree care service, so we we're only paving, maybe 4 days a week right now as we're growing this thing. We're not jam packed on the schedule. So if you got any tree work that needs to be done on a day we're not paving, that's we've got the equipment and the manpower, the resources and the experience to handle that too. So
Gotcha.
a little shameless plug there, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
no,
know,
that's fine. That's fine. Get them in,
um,
man. They're helping us out, share the love.
yeah,
Um, so that's interesting though, because I guess a lot of the people that might be listening to this, striping, um, seal
yep,
coating,
yep,
potentially some concrete, and then when you get obviously to your companies that are a little bit larger, that milling factor and things like that. So you mentioned obviously making sure it fits in the
milling,
budget.
trucking. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
trucking.
yeah.
So you mentioned obviously make sure it fits in the budget, make sure you have it planned out for that. You said make sure you have the manpower. Is there is there anything when, especially considering bringing on a new service, any either headaches, warnings, or tips as far as something that might require at least the hiring of two or three more people, to get a service going? Have you ever been through something like that as far as bringing on a new service that immediately needed more hands?
Yeah, and here's the tough thing with adding a new service. Is almost justifying the need to invest in the new equipment or the new manpower or a new crew right out of the gate. So a lot of the times and this is why we never quite got to where we're going to do our own milling, because it was going to be we weren't doing enough milling to justify doing it 40 to 50 hours a week. And if we were going to be doing it, we'd be pulling resources. I'm talking manpower from other crews where they would be feeling the effects of that lost production or that lost manpower. So it's like we're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're hurting this side of the business or slowing it down because we're trying to incorporate this into our service lines. So um, it's almost like you've got to it's almost, and I don't know why I say this, because we started this business, just said, hey, I don't really have any customers. I don't really have any contacts. We're just going to start promoting that we do this again and hope the phone rings. Well, we knew the phone was going to ring. And we went out and bought all the equipment. We had a crew, but even at that, it's kind of been part time up until about now. So it's really just making sure you've got the demand for that new service line to really say, hey, we're gonna get into this now. We're gonna make the investment in the equipment. We're gonna make the investment in hiring 2 to 3 men, five, whatever, however many manpower it requires to do the job. What kind of crew does it look like? So um, we did that with the striping with the other business. We went out and bought 2 striping machines and got to a point where we were paving enough parking lots and sealing enough parking lots that we could keep a striping crew busy, I don't know, 20, 30 hours a week. But what we were doing is we were stealing the seal coating or the prep crew manpower to go stripe the parking lots. So again, we didn't really have enough striping work to keep a dedicated striping crew employed for 40 hours a week. So it's hard to find folks that you tell them you can't work them 40 hours a week. They're going to go work somewhere else. So we'd end up stealing from a seal crew or stealing from a prep crew, which in turn slowed that seal crew or that prep crew down just so we could go stripe a parking lot. And it's like, it just made more sense. Now we've invested 20 grand in the equipment, but it still makes more sense now that we're into it to just subcontract that stuff out. That's why we now just continue to subcontract out striping. We continue to subcontract out milling, because it doesn't make sense to steal our interpersonal or personnel resources to go do that stuff just yet. So
And it can feel
it's a
almost
fine line.
yeah, yeah, and it can feel counterintuitive as an entrepreneur to say no to opportunities of expansion and things like that. Because
Yeah,
even as you were speaking about, taking one person from one crew to another, that put the foreman of the crew that's losing that person in a bad mood.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like they just
Yeah.
lost some of their reliable help for the day.
Here's the perfect example is we were looking, we were spending, I don't know, $200,000 a year on striping subcontractor. And it's like, man, we can go, like, why don't we put that revenue and the profit that comes from that $200,000 worth of striping, which I don't know, at 50 striping has a pretty good margin. Let's call it a 50% margin. There's 100 grand we can drop down to our bottom line. If we can hit a 50% margin on this $200,000 worth of striping, why not pick up that 100 grand of revenue? Well, in order to pick up that 100 grand of additional profit, we were cutting the profits out of those other divisions that we were stealing manpower from. So at the end of the day, maybe we did make an extra. I don't. It wasn't 100 grand. Maybe we pocketed an extra 10, but the headache that was involved with it, the acquisition of the new equipment that was involved with it, stealing from other crews and interrupting that product. Like, was it really worth all of that extra management and managerial headache and planning and forethought and all of the things that went into to picking up that extra 10, 15,000 bucks? Absolutely not even close. Like,
Sure.
let's just continue to subcontract that piece out. Maybe make a little margin, maybe mark that up a little bit, make a little margin on it, not have to touch it and not affect the things that we're good at doing already. So it's
Yeah, it's
just,
such a balance, man. Every
yeah.
aspect of every aspect of things. Just in the fact that, so much of what we're talking about cannot be quantified by data. You know what I mean? Like, yes,
Oh,
obviously,
absolutely.
you talk about
Absolutely.
that $10,000, maybe that you made, but it's impossible to calculate the frustration that it caused on the other side of things, which is,
100%. How
one of
much
the
more
reasons.
paperwork the office had to process?
Sure.
I mean, just go down the list, man. Like,
Sure, it's absolutely worth making the list, but putting a number to that is impossible. So,
right.
it's the kind of stuff like that that keeps business owners talking and trying to figure things out. Um,
The juice has to be worth the squeeze. And it's easy, especially I've been a young entrepreneur and a new business owner before. And thank God I don't have to do that again in starting this new business. But I don't know how many lessons I've learned. And look, I don't think there's any negative to wanting to diversify and wanting to grow and wanting to try new things, but just take your time and really try to analyze the true gain. I don't know how many folks in the asphalt paving and pavement maintenance industry. I think every single one of them that I've ever known, and it's probably hundreds, that have said, "Yeah, in the winter we do snow removal." And I don't know one of them today that is still in the snow removal business. They've all tried. I tried it. We've
yeah,
all tried it.
sure.
And it just never has made sense. It beat up our trucks. There were 24 to 48-hour long snow events to where you're working all through the night. And especially here in Kentucky, sometimes it snows 15 times a season. Sometimes it snows maybe twice. It's like
Yeah,
we've got all this equipment, we're on call, we've done all these contracts, we've filled out all this paperwork for all these property managers, and it didn't even freaking snow.
yeah,
And if it did snow, my guys are out for 3 nights straight. They're away from their families. They're beating the shit out of our equipment that we need to use next season to go paving with. It's like it wasn't worth the $25,000 we made this winter. It just
absolutely.
wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. I
You know,
remember when you explored cold patching, taking that on as
Oh, dude,
well.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And like I
yeah,
said, I've probably tried and failed at a handful of different things that,
sure,
seem to have made sense. And it's like, really think about what that's going to look like, how it's going to interrupt the things that you are good at doing, the manpower and equipment that you do have, and you really got to make it make sense.
sure. And we're talking about, smaller things to supplement income. If you magnify this and go out and buy a paver that you can't afford, we're talking
Oh,
about life-changing things that'll mess up your life. I mean, that's more than a
absolutely.
college education, you know what I mean? And it's so yeah, test. Dip your toe in the water, but make sure
No
you
doubt.
know what you're jumping into before you make a cannonball. And
I mean,
because
look,
you can
I've
screw up.
got, since 2009, I've got experience in this industry, and I'm operating with a used paver, actually two used pavers. So like I know when it'll be time to go buy that new $300,000 machine.
Sure,
We're not there yet,
sure.
and that's okay. Um,
Unless there's a sponsor that just wants to give one away,
right.
we're willing. We are available
I mean,
for
wants to
sponsorship
ship a new
opportunities.
Weiler this way,
Yeah, absolutely. If one finds their way over to long run, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Kevin, this was very wide ranging, and as a matter of fact, we have a couple other small things like geographic expansion and some other industry changes, adapting to industry changes. But I think that's a pretty good one for today. We'll definitely get into geographic expansion in another episode. But as far as the things we covered today, as far as the data decision making, the marketing, or as far as just the reinvestment into the human side of things. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't get to?
When you boil it down to really what the base or the nucleus of what we've been discussing these last two parts of this episode has been how to make healthy, wise, intelligent, uh, non-devastating business decisions. And it all starts with understanding your data, understanding your numbers, checking in with your data obsessively. I mean, literally obsessively checking in with your data and your numbers, understanding your business. If you don't understand how to calculate and interpret non-production overhead, get with somebody that does, so they can just get with somebody that can help you start understanding your business a little better. And it's not hard. It's like anything you do. You just got to practice it. You just got to start becoming familiar with it. You just got to start implementing it into your daily routine, into your business, into your practices, so that you can become a better business manager, a better business owner. That's really about it, man.
Absolutely.
Understand those numbers, understand that day, understand what's driving those numbers. You know,
Just keep looking at them. First of all, keep track of them. You need to be
yeah,
able to
yes,
keep track of them before you can
track,
look at them. But yeah, if once you look at those
100%.
numbers, it's just like anything else, like riding a bike. Once you pedal a few times and you get on it
Yeah,
and learn your way around, it's just going to get easier. And chances are you're going to get more hungry for knowledge as well. And before you know it, you'll be making some great decisions.
yeah, because there's no doubt it's overwhelming. I mean, when
Yeah.
especially if you've been in business a few years and you haven't been doing it, it's almost one of those things that's easier to just keep doing it the way you've been doing it instead of it's almost all the things you don't want to do are usually typically the hardest to start. But once you start, once you get into it, once you start understanding, once you start making it a habit, the peace of mind and you start seeing the fear go away, you start seeing the anxiety go away a little bit because you've got your arms a little bit more around this business that you're owning and operating. It's such a huge tool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and easy decisions, hard life, easy decisions.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yes.
it's just like anything else, man. You don't want to hit your head against a stone and call it progress, but it's definitely worth the journey, especially if you're in the pool and you're swimming. Let's figure this stuff out together. So reach out to us. Kevin and I are both always available. This podcast is always available. And by the way, if you're liking it, please smash that like and subscribe button because it's more than just a like to us. It is a signal to the system that we're kicking butt for you guys and they should tell other people. So we really appreciate if you would do that. Otherwise, Kevin, anything else for the people today?
That's all I got, man.
All right. Well, thanks for everyone for listening. Catch us on Instagram and on YouTube, and we'll talk to you soon.